Hello and welcome to Repeat the Question, where I break down the world of the Schmoedown, the newly reformatted movie trivia Schmoedown Analysis show, because that title was far too long and a little too similar to the title of the show itself. So here is the new analysis, Repeat the Question, with your new host, John Pendulbury, here to break down everything in the world of the Schmoedown. Okay, the top story of the news is in the world of upsets. So far in the Ultimate Movie Trivia Schmoedown singles tournament, there has only been 3 matches that went the way they were in terms of the ranking. John Roca versus Jason Inman, Snyder versus Nost, and Mike Kalinowski versus Josh McCouga. Every other single match has been an upset. Now, mind you, a William Bibbiani losing to Sam Levine isn't that surprising, but a lot of these have been truly an uprising of new talent in the Schmoedown. Competitor seems very much in the line of what the commissioner Christian Harloff would like, in the way they're always talking about the new players. But either way, all these players are proving their ability here, so that's fine. You know, Stacey Howard, Breanne Chandler are 2 in particular who have actually seemed to grown in their skill in the Schmoedown. You don't see that many players overall. However, let's move on to what I call the first segment of Player of the Tournament so far. Player of the Tournament so far, I would give to Mike Kalinowski for his knockout of Josh McCouga. Now, Josh McCouga probably gave one of his worst performances he's given in the history of his work in the Schmoedown. He just was not up to his usual technique in any way. And Kalinowski, who's actually another player who's growing as he plays rather than diminishing, which seems to be the case for Josh McCouga and Mark Ellis, although a little more on that later. However, I can understand Josh McCouga's difficulty. He's getting married probably sometime very closely near the match. I doubt it was the day after or the day of. That seemed to be when the match aired. But besides, Josh McCouga's getting married soon. He seemed to be distracted in that context. So I can understand how he lost so severely. Although McCouga needs a major comeback soon. I don't know if he's going to have one. I don't think his Wildberry team is going to create that comeback, but kudos to Mike Kalinowski, who has been playing great every match for his last 4 matches, I'd say. Even his team loss against Above the Line was a narrow loss, and nothing against his performance. He was great throughout, and that was certainly no loss to hold your head in shame over. Speaking of holding your head in shame, though, let's move on to the whiff of the tournament so far. The runner-up, Josh McCouga, in round 2 of his match against Mike Kalinowski, where he had a question on who played the President and National Treasure, and McCouga went to multiple choice and thought it was Bruce Greenwood, and then did not choose that in his multiple choice. That is a severe whiff and just shows how his mind seemed to be distracted, since if you're going to announce a possible answer, don't narrow it down for your competitor. The second whiff, which is much more understandable, that would be in the runner-up position, is Mark Ellis in Sudden Death, thinking Deep Throat won Best Picture. Now, this is understandable. Very tense for being in a Sudden Death round. But Deep Throat, Best Picture, I think Mark needs to look on his history of X versus a Triple X picture in that regard. And I don't know what world he lives in where Deep Throat won Best Picture, but it's not this one. But then again, Sudden Death. My true whiff of the tournament so far, though, is Matt Nost in his round 2 with multiple choice. Now, this is one where he failed to steal an answer, but it was still a major whiff. Jeff Snyder, against his match against Jeff Snyder lost a multiple choice on what the first collaboration between John Ford and John Wayne was. Jeff Snyder chose the wrong answer, and then Matt Nost proceeded to choose the exact same wrong answer. That is a major whiff. Wouldn't have made a difference in the overall match if he had gotten that answer, but nonetheless, that was a terrible bit of playing by Matt Nost, a player I really like and enjoy. His presence is great, but that was not a great showing. I mean, pay attention to what's going on with the whole match, especially during the steal round, as that can really give you a lot of points. Now, moving on to the match of round 1. This is an easy choice of McWeeny versus JTE. Not the highest scoring match, but these two both proved their measure in a match that went back and forth. It's true, McWeeny and JTE both missed their 5-pointers in major losses for both of them. McWeeny's mistake, again, was specific to you had to watch the film, and so was JTE's with Transformers. However, I didn't think those were too overly hard questions, considering those films were fairly popular. But anyways, they both missed it. And they went to a sudden death that lasted several rounds and was quite a thrilling match, and that is why it is easily the match of round 1 and one of the best matches in the history of the Schmoedown. For my final segment today, I have to run my advice for the players. Bibbiani, Ellis, Top 10, they all skipped out on Tarantino on the wheel. And guess what? They lost. He has 8 films, guys. Yes, you can ask for more specific details when it's only 8 films, but you've probably seen the films, therefore multiple choice will make it very easy. You can decipher the questions in your head, figure out the answer. Stop skipping Quentin Tarantino. It is becoming very tiresome every time they do it. I can understand if you've never seen one of his movies, but these guys definitely have. So next time Tarantino comes in, you better pick Tarantino. Just the advice for all players, unless you haven't seen any of his films, but come on, I'm sure you have. Now for predictions, we have 4 interesting matches. 2 grudge matches, 1 interesting lineup, and a curious in-house fight. So starting with one of the grudge matches of Roca versus Levine. These two have never fought before, but they've certainly traded their barbs, or well, actually more likely Levine has made many comments against Roca, even though Roca we've only heard in the background. We never saw him directly say anything about Levine until just recently in his end of his last match. So Roca versus Levine is an interesting lineup. Levine, strong competitor. Roca in general is stronger and is one of the most seasoned players in the league, but Levine's very seasoned as well. Roca has a better record and is a better scorer on the whole. However, I don't think it's cut and dry victory or loss by either way, because Roca can lose some key questions like William Bibbiani did last match. So that could happen, although I think Roca usually likes to build up his wins and then suddenly lose. So I think Roca does have a chance, more than a chance, to defeat Levine here, and I would go Roca taking down Levine, although it should be a 3rd rounder. Probably it'll be down to the last question due to Levine's strength, and Levine could easily take the win. Following that, we have Stacey Howard versus Rachel Cushing. I feel fairly confident in predicting Cushing, though. Both of them are going in 2-0. Both have done well in their past match. However, Howard showed some weakness in her follow-up match here, as she didn't perform all that well in the 3rd round, where Cushing is pretty consistent as a player in all 3 rounds as a single performer so far. So I think it's easy enough to predict Cushing, though Howard, if she really gets the right questions, right categories, could pull the upset again, but I think Cushing will take this victory. Following that, we have a pure grudge match of the rematch between Brianne Chandler and Mike Kalinowski. This one should be easy. Kalinowski should take the victory without a problem, although this whole tournament's been about upsets, so I shouldn't say that too quickly. However, Kalinowski has not shown any weakness. Even in his team match loss, he still performed brilliantly. He just happened to go against an amazing team. Brianne Chandler's a good player, but she's not an amazing player. So if Kalinowski has been doing what he's been doing ever since he started his team play, he should win again, no problem, against Chandler. And frankly, I think it's a problem if he loses. It's better for the league as a whole if Kalinowski wins, because he is the superior player in an overarching sense than Brianne Chandler, although both of them actually ought to have pretty good entrance as well. Kalinowski at least has a good costume. Chandler ought to have a great entrance. Finally, we have the in-house fight between Jeff Sneider and JT Little Evil himself. Conventional wisdom says Jeff Sneider wins this because he is the superior player on their team. However, both are strong players by themselves, so it will be interesting to see how this plays out. Sneider has the edge, that has to be granted to him, but JT could pull out the victory, say the wheel goes the wrong way in some way, but Sneider is the more consistent player, so just traditional wisdom says Sneider will win, though don't discount JT here. And I'll be honest here, this was some classic Vince McMahon move by Christian Harloff by setting up this immediate rematch. Technically, Sneider and JTE could have been lined up in a way that didn't make them fight each other, but this seemed pretty intentional to ensure that the Lion's Den didn't last too long overall. So I say Sneider takes this one, but again, all 4 of these could easily lead to an upset at some point. However, I say Roca beats Levine, although close. Cushing beats Howard, I predict not that close. Kalinowski beats Chandler, hopefully not that close. JT loses to Sneider. Sneider takes the victory in a close match. That's it for Repeat the Question for this round of the Ultimate Movie Trivia Schmoedown Tournament. Thanks for listening.